And I was like, dang, Matt, are you going to chase her out? Like, is it over? Is this another Claire and Dale season? Like, what is this? Guys, welcome back to another Batch Chat. This is your girl Elmo, and let's get into week 3 of The Bachelor. And we left off with the dramatic Sarah situation. I think she was having like a meltdown at the rose ceremony. Needless to say, she was fine, thank God. And Matt continued with the rest of the ceremony. And I have to be honest and say that I'm not surprised that some of the ladies like Marilyn and Sydney went home. I'm not really surprised. I think Matt was in a position where I guess his conversations with Victoria are so far along that he hasn't really talked to Marilyn. So I just thought it was weird that he was kind of dismissive of what Marilyn had to say, given it was like a, two-person thing. We're gonna believe one person or the other. Anyway, I think at the end of the day, Matt just did not see a connection with him and Marilyn, which is why I feel like he let her go. So I think that was more so the reason, not from what Victoria said. I even felt like Matt's connection or first conversation with Marilyn was kind of like, it was weird energy. It was weird, and I felt like, even though I don't think that Marilyn in real life needs a lot of self-assurance, I felt like when she opened up to Matt and started talking to him, I just felt like she was a little insecure, and it just wasn't a good vibe, like their first conversation, if you guys look at the previous episode. So to me, I just felt like Matt didn't see a connection with him, which is why he let them go. The group date was like a erotica group date, play on words. I thought it was interesting that they did bring back someone from another season, which they always do, but I thought it was even more interesting that they took that as an opportunity to promote Chris Harrison's book. I was like, really? First and foremost, I did not even know that Chris Harrison wrote a book. So I thought that, you've been working on the show forever, so I guess what's another great way to promote your book? But I have to say, even the passage from the book that was being read did not make me want to read the book. Now, if you're one for romance novels or erotica, then maybe Chris Harrison's book is your deal, but I thought that was interesting. I'm like, shameless plug. Okay, Bachelor, we see you. At the beginning of the group date, when Matt read his erotica, I'm not gonna lie, ladies, I was hanging on to every word. I thought that his passage was very reserved in a sense. It was, when he said chocolate cake, I was like, I don't even like chocolate, but I was like, pass the chocolate cake, please. Like, it was nice. He kept it very classy, which I can appreciate. Now the ladies, they went all in. If I was on the show, I would have gone all in too. Before we even jump into what the ladies were saying, let's talk about Serena C. Y'all, Serena C is bringing these outfits. When I tell you, I was like, okay, yes, Serena C, whatever you're saying, but let's talk about her outfit. She had on black leather jacket that was draped over her shoulders, like little stomach showing, leather. Serena C, if there is a honorary rose, normally I wait to the end to give this honorary rose, but I'm just gonna give it right now, because other than that, I don't even know who I would give it to. But Serena C, just for this outfit alone, makeup, hair, brought it to the date. So Serena C, I'm giving you the honorary rose that I normally hand out at the end of my videos, but Serena C brought it on the group date, so she just gets the honorary rose just for style and grace on the date. So moving on to the erotica, who I thought won, or who stood out to me on the erotica conversation. So I have to say, Katie is a little firecracker. I think half the things that she was saying to Matt, they bleeped out of the episode, which was crazy. Victoria, you cannot talk about The Bachelor without talking about Victoria at this point, because she's just like all over the place. But Victoria's was like shady and funny at the same time. And I was actually listening to a Bachelor podcast that said that, I think Matt is the one who said that Victoria, don't quote me, but I think Matt is the one who said Victoria is like pretty funny. like one of the funniest people in the house. So I thought that was interesting because all the ladies seemed to be laughing, but when Victoria was saying her little erotica to Matt, she was just like, you know, and there's not going to be anybody left, and from your past, like, I'm better than them type of deal. It was kind of shady and also straightforward at the same time. But I feel like all the girls just like found it funny because they're like, okay, cool, we really don't see you as a threat. But like, once again, I think, you know, Victoria's being her true and authentic self, just bringing it real, and of course, everybody laughed, everybody appreciated it. I thought it was weird how they kept flashing to Sarah, and Sarah I felt like she was having a mental breakdown once again. I mean, I think last week was a Victoria show. This is like the Sarah show this week. So, yeah, I just thought it was super crazy. Just moving on to the group Nightcap. I feel like that's where most of the juice of this episode kind of shined through. Like, the daytime was like nice and fun and light, and then the nighttime was really where all the drama happened. So, you know, they started off the night date. It seemed like everything was going well. And then, you know, I think Matt had a conversation with Bree, and they seemed to really be hitting it off. I think it's interesting because some people that I watch with sometimes always talk about how Matt kisses with his eyes open. And I just think it's funny that he kisses with his eyes open right now. I think the fact that, you know, he's mentioned that he's never been in love contributes to that a bit. But yeah, it's super weird that he kisses with his eyes open. So I think I'll be watching to see as the season progresses if he ever closes his eyes fully and trusts the person he's kissing. But I think that's always interesting to see Matt kissing the women on the show. But moving on, throughout the night, Matt talked to a couple ladies, but I think we all know the most drama was with Katie and Sarah and Victoria. I know that when Katie was talking to Matt on the date, I think it was very interesting that Sarah was overcome with emotion just from the previous, what happened, the erotica that happened earlier in the day. I just thought it was interesting that she was just getting so worked up. And I know, like, I've never been on the show, but I know that contestants say, like, you go in there expecting one thing and then another thing happened. So I'm not putting it past her, but I thought it was just super crazy that she felt like she had to go talk to Matt right there, then in that moment, kind of stealing the time away from the other girls on the date. So I thought her interrupting Katie on the date was kind of like rude, because when she walked up, at least from what we saw on camera, when she walked up, she just like went to Matt like this was a regular rose ceremony night and was like, can I steal you for a second? Not even addressing the fact that Katie was in mid conversation with Matt right then and there. And I didn't like the fact that Sarah was just like completely disregarded Katie sitting there and then asked Matt if he could be stolen for a second. I just thought that was, you know, you're a woman. You know, if you're talking to, Matt is technically dating 30-something women right now. So it's only right that you walk up and say, you know, at least address me. I'm sitting right here. So I thought that was, you know, I think Matt's trying to cater to everybody. So, you know, he got up and they left and they went and had their conversation. Thought it was interesting though when Katie went back into the house that Victoria hyped her up just to go back and reclaim the time that was stolen from her from Sarah. So when she went back and said, like, how much time you need? Like, can I get 5 minutes? You know, Katie's trying to compromise with her. I just thought, Sarah, this is not your time. I feel like Sarah was kind of monopolizing on the time, and I don't think she was being fair considering, you know, what we know. She went on a whole one-on-one. She had the whole day to Matt by herself, and then now you're telling me you can't handle a little erotica conversation with like the talks with other women. I just thought it was crazy. And so, you know, when she went back to try to talk to Matt again, I thought it was super crazy how Katie just was like, okay, cool, I'm about to sit right here. I'm about to sit down, and we all three gonna talk until I get my man back. She was not giving up, but you know, Sarah then said, Matt, can you walk me out? And then took Matt away and stole some more time and a little kiss. I don't know what that was really about, just like watching the whole episode. I just was like, what is going on with this girl? Like, are you really, really struggling? Like, what's happening? It just seemed super crazy in the moment. So needless to say, Katie, like, I guess went back and talked to Matt. I don't really know. But next thing we knew, Matt was giving out, the rose to Rachel because they had a conversation on the date, and, the women were looking pissed. And I also thought it was strange that after the fact that Sarah went and bombarded and blew up basically their entire date, she came back and apologized. I see why the ladies say that she was calculated, because she could have easily gone to the ladies first and said, hey, I don't mean to blow up your date, but I really need to talk to Matt. Something's weighing heavy on my heart. I don't mean any disrespect by this, but I need 5 minutes. She did that after the fact. It just was tasteless. And I'm like, sis, if you thought it enough in your mind to go speak to the ladies at all, then you should have done that prior to going to speak to Matt, so everyone knew what was up, and then you wouldn't have had a weird exchange with Katie, and it just wouldn't have been strange, and you wouldn't have set the mood for the night, which was, everybody was pretty salty when Matt came back and gave the rose to Rachel and pretty much was like, y'all have a good night. And half the women there didn't even get a chance to talk to him, and it was their group date. It didn't put a good taste in my mind, and I know if I was a young lady sitting there, I would be highly pissed. So I just thought that was super crazy. Victoria, of course, as always, she did not hold back. I feel like after Sarah went outside, at first I was like, why are they ganging up on her? But Victoria went to her. Victoria's sneaky. You gotta watch her, because she'll set you up and then she'll dip, which is exactly what she did to Katie. So she went out there and had a conversation, which seemed like a fair exchange between her and Sarah. But I swear, Katie walked up like, what's up? Katie walked up ready to say some words, but I think both of their conversations with Sarah were valid. It's just unfortunate that Sarah's choices throughout the night, coming to Matt first and then going the back and forth, it just didn't look good. So then, obviously the next day, Matt comes in, we already know that he's going on this date with Serena P. So he comes in the next, I thought this was crazy. So he comes in the next day, and then right before the date with Serena P, he sits all the ladies down and is like, hey, want to talk about the night, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, where's Sarah? Because obviously, I guess he wanted Sarah to be there for the conversation too. And then goes off and has a conversation with Sarah. Comes back, and at least on our TV screens, you left your conversation unfinished. You basically set everybody down, was like, oh, let's talk about last night, because, he could sense the tension. He knew what them ladies were pissed, that he was essentially ending the night. So then he sits down, comes back, and then was like, Serena P, it's time to go. Now, Serena, she's a sweet soul. I'm so thankful for her that she actually was decent enough to let Matt have the time. I thought that was nice of her, but I just thought it was crazy how he didn't finish what he started. And it just, again, very salty. Sarah's in her room. It's just a mess. Serena P and Matt, she just was very authentic. And then that just continued into the nighttime, where, they were having an exchange about being in love. And, obviously that's where we learned that Matt had never been in love. And I was like, that's why he kisses with his eyes open, because he'd never been in love before. But I just thought their exchange was authentic. I mean, there's nothing bad to say about Serena P's date. I mean, it was a great date, and she got the rose, and we're gonna see more. As that night ended and kind of like the quote-unquote drama continued, I thought it was interesting that Sarah finally came out of her room and then decided to talk to the ladies. I think at that point she had already made her mind up, and I think since Matt didn't talk about it and Sarah did not earlier in the day have a conversation with the ladies after she had spoken with Matt, I think everything was just building. The entire episode was like, this bitch, no she didn't, no she didn't intrude on our date, no she didn't, try to give us this half-assed apology, no she didn't, steal Matt away from Katie, no she didn't, Like, it was just one after another. And then, you know, when Matt did sit down and talk to the ladies, had to go up and find Sarah. So it was just like she was just getting more time on more time on more time. And I could just see from the ladies' perspective, it was just like, here we go again. Like, you are a drama queen. Like, what's going on with you? So I did feel like it was kind of too little too late when she kind of came down and was like, sorry guys, like, you know, I got myself together now. Like, I've had all my conversations with Matt. But I didn't necessarily like, similar to Katie, I didn't like that they kind of like, it was kind of like a bullying situation a bit. Like, it was kind of like she was getting bullied a little bit on the show. Like, I think people were just releasing their frustrations, and I can't really say any of the women necessarily, I don't want to not call it bullying or call it bullying, because it just was like in that weird in between. Like, if I was in that position, what would I have done? You know, like, I would have been upset. So as the women did, I feel like although they were frustrated, they were just not necessarily trying to gang up on her. I just feel like they were just trying to say their piece out. Like, they were just trying to say, well, you know, Kayla had mentioned, like, you may be going through something, and like, if you need to go home, that's fine. Like, take care of your business, whatever. But like, her point was, you're taking time away from me, and I could potentially not get a rose. I could potentially go home. And I think some of the ladies were more concerned with that than necessarily it being like, oh, we're gonna gang up on you. Like, you did this, you did that. But it's just like, you did monopolize like their entire date and time, and just was kind of like, yeah, sorry, you know, not sorry. But as we all know, this is The Bachelor, and The Bachelor has no rules. Like, they say that every season there's no rules, and even if there are rules, people break them to get what they want. And you, unfortunately, we're on a show where you guys are all competing for a great guy, and that's tough. It's tough to get time. We're already in week 3, and we could see that Matt's connection with Sarah was developing very, very strongly. So I think at that point in the night, the girls were just frustrated. I did appreciate that Katie went to Sarah the next morning, and they had a conversation. And to me, I just was like, I don't know if there's something else going on outside of, you know, Sarah's father. That's a big thing. Like, that's her family, and him having that illness. My heart breaks for her. So like, I could see like that struggle, but I wondered if there was anything else going on. I don't know if that was like the sole reason, because from the conversation that she had with Katie, she was saying like, it's not the girls, it's just like, I have a bunch of stuff going on at home. And then as we all know, she went to go visit Matt after that to say like, I'm going home. And then she turned around and was like, I'm leaving because it's the girls in the house. So I was like, that's interesting that now you're turning it around and saying you're leaving because the girls in the house, that they're bullies, and that you just can't take the pressure. And it's just like, she did talk about her dad a little bit, but she kind of made it seem like, I'm leaving because I'm getting bullied. And, you know, Matt made it clear, like, I want you here. Just the way that he was looking at her, the way that he was reassuring her, he liked this girl. And I would be lying to say that she would not be one of the top contenders. I saw Sarah in the final 2, and I think, to be completely transparent, nobody was on their level when it came to their connection. Matt, I mean, he is in strong life. I don't know about love, but he's in strong like with this girl. And I mean, just the reassurance that he gave her, he's like, I never stopped thinking about you. Just, it was a lot. And I was like, dang, Matt, are you gonna chase her out? Like, is it over? Is this another Claire and Dale season? Like, what is this? Like, he really liked that girl. And I just thought it was interesting because I felt like, I don't know if she just didn't feel like they had a connection, because I felt their connection was pretty strong. But the whole time she was whining, and I'm going to call it whining because she was whining, there were no tears. I think I was on Twitter and people were like, no tears, like a hashtag no tears. She wasn't crying, guys. Like, she was not crying. It was like, I'm like, sis, there's no tears. It just, even in the limo ride when she left, I was just like, she was, no tears. It just, there was no tears. I'm like, did you not like him? Like, I don't know if there was something else going on. Again, not putting it past her, because like, your father being sick, like, you can't ever have that time back. So I agreed with Katie and her telling her to go back, spend time with your family. It sucks that you know, getting back to what Katie was saying, like she doesn't want to be number two. I don't want to be somebody's backup plan if you really are falling in love with someone else. So this was a drama show for Sarah, but not necessarily glad to see her go home, but I'm happy that she came to this decision very early and we're not in a proposal state and this is happening. So excited to see what's gonna happen on week 4. You guys stay with me. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel below, and I will see you another Batch Chat later. Bye guys.